I'm CGTN's reporter Jiaxin. Welcome to CGTN's live stream. Today we are at Beijing Science Center for some new exhibition of the spacecraft. And I'm now honored to be joined by Dr. Yuguang. He's the Vice Chair of Space Transportation Committee of the International Astronautical Federation. Hello and welcome to CGTN's live stream.
Hello, Jiaxin.
Okay, yeah, we're counting on you for the rest of the live stream. Shall we?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, so for the starter, this big wall in front of us depicts a memorabilia of China's space.
Yep.
I suppose you can stand here and give us a lecture of a whole day long, just talking about like the history of China's space simply on this wall. But given the limited time of our tour today, which is about only maybe an hour or so, would you like to pick maybe one or two most remarkable achievements from your perspective?
Yeah. So this diagram shows almost the whole history of China's aerospace. You see that the China space industry started in 1956, when the establishment of the fifth Academy of the Ministry of Defense.
Yeah.
So this is original organization of China's aerospace. And at that era, you see that mainly we're focusing on the simulation or the duplication of the missile we imported from the former Soviet Union. Yes, the Dongfeng 1. You know that the space era comes from the V2 rocket. The V2 rocket is made by the Nazi Germany during the Second World War. You see that you know that there are many pioneers starting the space era, such as Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, who gives the theory of using rocket to visit outer space, and also the Robert Goddard, and also Albert. But you see that the usually we call the von Braun the father of the modern rocket technology, or even the father of the modern aerospace industry. It is because that he made the first modern rocket called V2 during the Second World War, of course, for the Nazis. The V2 rocket brought a great disaster to British people, but actually speaking, it is the rudiment of the modern space industry. So even now, all the carrier rocket, no exception, has a similar architecture of the V2 rocket. So you see that the former Soviet Union started its space industry based on the duplication of the V2 rocket, which is called the P1 and P2. And our Dongfeng 1 is a duplication of the P2 rocket from the Soviet Union. So you can see it's the same shape like the V2 rocket. So this is the first one, and it is very interesting that you can see the one of the original copy. You can see this rocket in the military museum of the just near the old side of the CCTV. Yeah, exactly.
On November the 5th, 1960, our country's first missile called Dongfeng 1 has been successfully launched. But I think that's after the Soviet Union broke off cooperation with China, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So just at that moment, the former Soviet Union refused to give us the right propellant. Yeah. So we made the propellant by ourselves. Although we don't have.
They withdrew every technicians as well as the design drawings, but still China successfully made it to launch this missile.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is in 1960 we launched our first missile, the ground surface to surface ground missile. So this is start of our space era, our space industry. So this is Dongfeng 1, right. And then you see that's the Dongfeng 2. Dongfeng 2 is.
What's the difference between the?
So this rocket is bigger than this one, and most important, it is completely designed by ourselves.
Oh.
So this is.
So we have our own intellectual property.
Exactly. So this is completely made in China and designed by China. So this is Dongfeng 2 rocket is also very meaningful, very important for our space industry.
Yeah.
And you see, from this development, we have a very good, experienced team which can not only design the rocket, the carrier rocket, but also they began to perform a very important test.
The nuclear missile
yes,
test,
the nuclear
right?
missile. You see, you know that we explored our first atomic bomb in 1964, and in 1966, our derivative of our Dongfeng 2 missile carried our nuclear warhead. It was launched in the Jiaxin satellite launch center. Exactly. Exactly. We launched this rocket in the Jiaxin satellite launch center. Then it accurately hit the target in Xinjiang autonomous region. So this is you know that it is very, very important. You see that it is the only one in the whole world that a country conduct a nuclear test, a nuclear missile test, within its territory. So this is the only example of all countries. So this is also a very important one.
On our own soil.
Exactly. Right. So these are the original development of our space industry. And then in 1970, we will introduce this later. So this is our first satellite. Exactly. And
so
then
actually, before we go through everything else, I have this one question: why did China conduct a missile research like ahead of everything else? Why is missiles so important for China's space
You see that it is quite similar like the other countries such as the US and the former Soviet Union. You know that to have a space industry, the first step you can go into outer space. That's the first things first. You know that until now the human being can only visit the outer space with rocket because the basic fact is that there is no air in the outer space. So the other engines, the traditional engines such as the combustion engines for the cars and for the airplanes cannot working in outer space, which you know that it is based on the chemical combustion. And the difference from these engines and the rocket engine is that the rocket engine not only brought fuel but also brings the oxidizer with it or oxygen with it, so it can work even without the help of air. So usually we call the engines of the cars and the airplane called the air-breathing engines.
Air-breathing.
Yeah, exactly, air-breathing engine. So they can only work in the atmosphere. But for the rocket, because it brought the air with itself, so it can work in outer space. So that is reason the rocket technology is a fundamental technology for any space-capable nation. And you see that, as I have already introduced, the von Karman invented the first modern rocket during the World War II. So the routine for every country is the same one. If you want to go to outer space, just develop the missile first.
All right. And it's the very foundation of the rocket.
So what we mentioned, this is a relatively small rocket, and then we have bigger rocket.
Later on we have
then we have the communication satellites and our first manned spaceship. And in the new century, we have our lunar exploration program, our Chang'e probes to the moon, and our sample return missions, and then the missions to Mars. So the Chang'e or the Long March rocket has already conducted more than 400 launches. So that's a great achievement. So that is really. And in the future, we have the plan to establish international. Exactly. You have just come back from Russia, but we will have an international lunar science research station within the next decade. So that is also very important. And this year is also a very important year for China Aerospace. We will complete the construction of our space station.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Shall we?
Let's go on.
Yeah, let's go on. Okay, so if you walk in this space exhibition center, you can feel that this place is not so big, but everything really has its significant meaning. For example, this is our, like what we just mentioned, our China's first satellite, Dongfang Hongwan. It looks really cute, right?
Yeah.
Lovely. Is it still working on the orbit?
It's not working, but it's still orbiting the Earth.
Oh.
The rocket and satellite were launched in 1970. From the Jiaxin Satellite Center. Both you and me have already been there before.
As we can see, this large picture depicts the
Yes.
Jiaxin launch site, the Jiaxin satellite launch site of the Dongfang Hongwan.
Yeah.
Right?
So you can see this. This is have the same size of the Dongfang Hongwan satellite. This satellite is a technology demonstration satellite. When it was launched into orbit, it's just emitting the radio waves with the signals of the Dongfang Hong music.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
if you have a radio
like
receiver on the ground, you can have the music. You can hear the music.
It's launched during President Mao Zedong's era, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's why this title.
Yeah, exactly. So you can see this. Among all the major space capable nations, our satellite, although it was only launched in 1970, very late comparing with other countries, but it is most heaviest. It's the heaviest one of the first satellite. It is much heavier than the first satellite of Russia, of former Soviet Union and the U.S. The mass of this is more than 180 kilograms, so it is very, very heavy. You know that it uses the storage batteries, so it can only work for several weeks. It is, as you asked, it is not working now, but because it is the rocket, the orbit is very high, so it is still orbiting the Earth.
Orbiting.
Yeah, exactly. And there are also other stories. You see that there are astronomy fans today often take photos of the track of this Dongfang Hongwan satellite.
Oh, so we can still see it.
Exactly. Although it is very dark because it is very small, but still we can see it. So the astronomy fans is always taking photos of the trail of this Dongfang Hongwan satellite. Yeah, exactly. So this is very interesting.
And if we listen carefully, I think we just heard Dongfang Hong music.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a song in President Mao's honor because he's the first leader of People's Republic of China.
Now you can see this one is the Long March 1.
Long March 1 rocket.
Yeah, Long March 1. That's the one brought this satellite into orbit.
Oh.
Yeah. So the diameter of this rocket is 2.25 meters. So there is also a very interesting story of this rocket. As I've mentioned, you see that the pioneer, the rocket technology, the pioneer of this is a Russian scientist called Konstantin Tsiolkovsky. He developed the theory that if we want to go to outer space and go into the Earth's orbit, we must use multiple stage rocket. We've already introduced the Dongfang 1 and the Dongfang 2 rocket. But even after we designed the Dongfang 3 rocket, it is only a single stage rocket. But the Dongfang, with the design and the successful test of the Dongfang 3 rocket, we have this 2.25 meter rocket. And we add another stage. Look, it is here. It is here. On top of the first stage. So the Dongfang 4 is the first multiple stage rocket we developed. The Dongfang 4 rocket. So with the successful test of the Dongfang 4 carrier rocket, we have the multiple stage rocket technology. And then we add another stage. Look, on the top of the second stage, a small solid motor.
You mean the blue part?
The part with the national flag.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
behind the flag.
With that one, it is from the third stage, and then this 3-stage rocket is called Long March 1.
Oh.
So you see, this is a history based on the technology, the diameter from the Dongfeng 3 rocket, and then with the multiple stage technology of the Dongfeng 4 missile, and then adding the small solid nuclear as the third stage. So we formed this rocket. So it is the right moment for China to launch this Dongfang 1 satellite into orbit.
Yeah.
So
and that makes China the 5th country that can self-develop its own satellite and launch it.
You know that's the date for launching this satellite is 24th of April on 1970. And then you know that in just several years before, the central government just named the same day, the 24th of April, as the National Space Day of China. I believe this is a recognition not only of the government, but of course the whole society to the contribution and the importance of this space technology. So this is the story of this Long March 1 rocket. So this is the service tower in the launch pad of the Dongfang 1 launch.
Yeah, I've been to this site. It's not used so far.
So yes, it's not in operation now. But it is.
But it's like a tourism site.
Yeah, it is. It can be recognized this as a monument to memory our early eras of the space technology.
Right.
So this launch complex is just dedicated for launching what I call the rocket with a diameter of the 2.25 meters. So this is. It is also very interesting that why we choose this diameter. You know that even the bigger one we launched in the Jiaxin Satellite Launch Center is only 3.35 meters.
So why is this smaller?
Yeah, because the diameter is limited by the railway tunnels.
Really?
Yeah, you know that we must transport through the railway.
Okay.
Yeah, so the size or the diameter of our rocket is limited by the size of the railway tunnels.
Okay, the diameter of the rail.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we can build bigger rocket, but just before the establishment of our Hainan Satellite Launch Center, we cannot using a bigger rocket because the limit of this railway tunnel.
Oh.
So that is the reason.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. So they even have some footage, some scientific footage about how we launch a rocket. China's.
So this video just introduced the past, the current, and the future of China's space technology.
Sure.
So it is very impressive. Although you know that we are still a developing country, but we already have very great achievements in space field.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. We have a really short history comparing with like the Soviet Union and the United States.
So
here
these are some papers just at the day we launched our first satellite. So this is also very meaningful memory of our first satellite.
Liberation Daily report.
And also you can hear the music I mentioned from this radio.
Oh, it's called Dongfang 1, like the East Red.
Yes, exactly. So that shows, as I mentioned, the Dongfang 1 is the first technology demonstration satellite. You see that's the meaning of this test is not only we already have our orbital launch vehicle, but also we tested the whole system, the launch site system, the launch pad, and also the rocket system, the spacecraft system, and also an important one is the telemetry, telecontrol, and the communication system, or TT&C. You see that we receive signals from this TT&C system. So this is the basic infrastructure, architecture of our testing and flight mission system. So that is the reason we think it is important. Not only important because of the rocket and the satellite, but also the whole big system.
The whole big technology.
Exactly.
What we have achieved. But this is interesting. If we move along, you can see this one is like this mimics a corner of taikonaut's launch ceremony. Like before they
start to go to outer space.
Before they start their voyage to the space, they will be standing there, maybe behind the window, like a glass window, with all the reporters, like this one. Would you like to get in there?
So the astronaut will stay in the building. Usually the building we call 问天阁.
Yes.
In Jiaxin Satellite Center, you can remember that.
Training center.
Yeah, the
China's
问天阁,
Satellite Launch
and just before the maybe one day before the this set off, usually there is a news release conference. Usually in this, many of your colleagues, the reporters in this room, asking questions for the crew. Just when they plans to go to outer space.
Sure. So usually, like in front of the taikonauts, there will be a glass window. Yeah. Just like a quarantine or
exactly.
something.
So this to avoid to keep the healthy of the crew. So that is also very important. So you see, we already formed this tradition to have this kind of news release and the setting off ceremony.
Usually one day before the launch.
Exactly.
Right?
And the next day.
I've never been to the room, you know, so this one looks really. I'm so excited to be standing here.
And also there is another tradition. You see, just before they set off, usually they will autograph on the door of their bedroom of the crew. So they will sign and also
sign their name.
Sign their names, autographed. And also you see that not only the major crew will sign, but also you see the backup crew.
The backup crew.
Yeah. You see that.
So there's always a plan B for like.
Exactly. You see that. You know that the training and also the selection is really tough for everybody. So if you can not be selected as a major crew, but if you can be selected as a backup crew, it is also a great honor.
Yeah, sure.
It shows that you are outstanding among all these.
You are capable of.
You see that during the Shenzhou-13 mission, we have 14 astronauts. So have 14, and the major crew is Mr. Yang Liwei, and the backup crew is the Jiaxin and Mr. Haisheng. So they are also great honored.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay, so if, as we are standing here, if you were a taikonaut, what would you like to say during the launch ceremony to all the press here?
So I will say that the space dream is a dream for everybody, and today I will fulfill my dream, and also I, on behalf of not only myself, not only my country, but also on behalf of all human beings, to explore the outer space, and for the benefit of all human beings, and for the progress of the whole society.
Wow, that's a large picture. Yeah. So as a reporter, if I were a taikonaut, if that's possible in the future, maybe I'll send you back news stories from the space every day, and I can assure you, I can assure you that every story will be ends as blah blah blah, like my name, Liu Jiaxin, CGTN in space. And
also, you see that there are of your colleagues in outer space before. You see that the first astronaut of Japan is a reporter.
Oh, really?
Exactly. And also, you see that during the Shenzhou-13 mission, Mr. Jing Haipeng and Ms. Chen Dong act as a part-time employee of the Xinhua News Agency.
Yeah, sure. Shall we? Oh my goodness! So this is my first time to know that a reporter can become a taikonaut also. Wow, so I better train myself.
Okay.
Yeah, frequently. Like, this one, it's a model of China's space station.
Yes,
like some
really big model.
Achievements that attracts a lot of audiences. Yeah. So, is this the final model of the final shape of the space station?
No, it is. You can see this is a complete model of the first stage of our Tiangong space station. The key point is that the space station is extendable. In the future, it can be. So let me introduce that the first stage of its configuration. So you see, the first stage of this space station is mainly composed of 3 modules. So look at here. On this direction, on this direction is the Tianhe-1 core module. So, and you know that there is a sphere here on the front of the Tianhe-1 core module, it is called the node. And the node have, you see that on the left and right have berthing ports. And you see that this is a Wentian module. On this direction. This is a Mengtian.
The right one or the left one?
The right one.
The right one.
The right one is a Wentian module, and this one is a Mengtian module. Exactly.
It's about to be launched by the end of
exactly.
the year.
No, just October.
In October. Yes.
Yeah. So the Wentian module is already in outer space, but not on this port. So this position is final or the permanent position of the Wentian module. So on the left and the right called the berthing port. On the front, you can see on this sphere is the front docking port. Front docking port.
Yeah.
On the bottom is the nadir docking port. On the top is the hatch of the EVA for EVA.
Oh, for extravehicular.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, speaking of that, just recently the Shenzhou-13 crew have conducted a successful.
You know that our space station has experienced what we call the technology demonstration phase just before this year. The reason is that you see that we've already mastered the 3 fundamental technologies after we have the Shenzhou-11 and the Tianzhou-1 mission. So we have already mastered the crew transportation, the EVA, and also the rendezvous and docking technologies. But this does not mean that we've already mastered all the necessary technologies for constructing a space station. So that is the reason why we have conducted the since the maiden flight of this Long March 5 rocket in 2020 and to the completion of the Shenzhou-13 mission. We have a technology demonstration or verification phase about 2 years to test the other important technologies for the building the space station.
We can't send anything important until our technology is mature.
Exactly.
Right?
So as you asked, you know that just last year we launched the Tianhe-1 module, and during the flight of the Tianhe-1 and the flight of the Shenzhou-12 and the Shenzhou-13 crew, we need to test the EVA technologies. We will discuss later. But you know that for any EVA, we need an airlock. We need an airlock. So yeah, exactly. The airlock, the basic requirement for an airlock is that it must have 2 hatches.
Two hatches.
The hatch on the top we can recognize as the outer hatch, and there is also another hatch just between this sphere and the small cylindrical part of the station. So the other hatch. So when conducting the EVA, the astronauts go inside the node and then close the hatch behind them, and then release all the air. It becomes a vacuum condition, and then open the outer hatch. Now you can see that.
Yeah,
but we conducted this EVA from this node. It's already very bigger than the Shenzhou-7 mission, but it is still smaller than. Look here, the rectangular one is a major airlock of our space station, just located on the Wentian module. So that is the one that we conducted EVA during this Shenzhou-14 mission. So it's different. The major airlock is much bigger than the node. The inner volume of this major airlock is 15 cubic meters. It is very large. You see that you know that our Tiangong-1 and the Tiangong-2 space laboratory, the total inner volume is only 15 cubic meters, and the single airlock, the inner volume is 15 cubic meters. So for the function of the airlock, it's really, really big.
Sure.
So you can see this configuration, just the Tianhe-1 and the Wentian module. All these modules, the mass of these modules are about 22 tons, very, very heavy. And this is a configuration, we call this a T-shaped. A T-shaped configuration, exactly,
like
of the exactly. So, but this configuration we also have the 2 Shenzhou spaceships, and also on the rear part a Tianzhou-1 cargo ship.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So
that.
with the 3 modules, the 2 Shenzhou spaceships and the Tianzhou cargo ship, the maximum mass can reach to about 100 tons.
100 tons.
Yeah, but this only happened during the turnover or the switch of the different expedition teams. When when the early crew still in the orbit, still in the station, and the next crew has already come into the station, and they deliver their tasks in orbit. So that will have a very high efficiency, and then the first crew will go back to the Earth. So this is usually this configuration only lasts for about 1 or 2 weeks.
Okay. 1 or 2 weeks, and after that.
And important that we will see this configuration before the end of this year, maybe in December.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, exactly. So at that moment, it is another historical moment. We will have 6 Chinese astronauts in orbit. Simultaneously. So that is also very meaningful.
So now the quick question to our audience: like, how many times of the launches China already conducted before for its space station program?
You see that we will already have during the.
No. Don't unveil the answer until the very end of our live stream, because this is for our audience. Please leave your comment. Please leave your answer in our comment.
Okay. So let's see these 2 rockets. Just before see this rocket, you may notice this huge solar panel.
Solar panel.
Yeah, so solar panel. You know that, Jiaxin, we are still a developing country.
Yeah.
We only have a limited budget in our space program. So our space station is not very large. As I mentioned, the complete configuration of the whole station at the first stage is only about 100 tons. So it is much smaller than the Mir space station of Russia, and also even more smaller than the ISS.
Yeah.
So the total mass of ISS is more than 400 tons. But you know that although our space station,
the ISS is going to retire.
Maybe before the and the feature of our station, it adopted a modular design, like the Mir space station, which belongs to the 3rd generation of all the human beings space stations. But the performance of our station can reach to the 4th generation, like the ISS. The most distinctive feature of this is what I mentioned, the solar panels. You see that the major feature of the International Space Station is that it has a truss structure. The truss is more than 108 meters, very, very long. And although we don't have a truss, but we use the fuselage of our Wentian module and Mengtian module as the truss. You can see at its rear part, we have these 2 huge solar panels.
Like 2 wings.
Solar wings. And the area of a single wing is more than 110 square meters.
Oh, that's huge.
Yes, so it can supply very, very powerful electricity to the station. And moreover, you see that it has 2 axes. 2 axes. One can rotate on this direction, and the other axis can rotate on this. Yes, you can see. So the 2 axes are perpendicular to each other. This is a very important feature, which means that at any moment, the solar panels can facing the sun with the most ideal direction. So this is a very important feature of the 4th generation. It is similar like the International Space Station, and with this feature, we can have a very abundant power supply for our scientific research. So we also have many scientific research racks inside station, and also the payload adapter. You can see that on the hatch, on the main airlock. So we can have as good as the scientific research instruments as good as the International Space Station. So that is the reason.
And even better, right?
Yeah, even better. And moreover, you see that in the future, this station, we already discussed, it is the first stage, but it is extendable. Look, just at the position of this Shenzhou spaceship, the front docking port, in the future, we can dock another we call the secondary core module on this docking port. With the secondary.
So it can be enlarged.
And also you see that with this secondary core module, we can have other docking ports ports and the berthing ports. So we can have another 2 laboratory modules. And it is very interesting. You see that?
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
So that means maybe if we're going to cooperate with some other countries, are they able to send like other spacecraft or other modules to our space station?
Quite right. So the highest level of international cooperation will be a cooperation on modular level, which means, as you mentioned, we have the secondary core module, and it has another 2 berthing ports. And on one of the berthing ports, we can have a module made by other country. So we hope that this can be achieved in the future. But before that, you know that just before the end of this year, we will have some experiments, the devices made by other countries, designed by other countries, and brought to the station by the Shenzhou-13 or the Tianzhou-5 cargo ship, and then conducted by Chinese astronauts.
And also in front of us, we have 2 rocket modules. Like this one is to send humans into space,
exactly.
Right? And that one mainly to carry the core module and the cargo ship. Right?
No. This is a Long March 5B rocket, actually speaking, for China's
the
space
large
station.
one, right?
The larger one.
Yeah.
You see that the diameter. Look, the core stage. The diameter is 5 meters. Much bigger.
Much bigger.
And why we have this 5-meter diameter is because we made this rocket in Tianjin, just along the seashore, and shipped to the Hainan province by ship. So it is not limited by or restrained by the railway. So it can be bigger, and it will be ported by the Yuguang 21 and Yuguang 22 ship to the Qinglan seaport in the Hainan province, and then to the Wenchang launch center. And this rocket is dedicated for launching the modules of our station, like the Tianhe 1, the Wentian and the Mengtian, because the capability of this Long March 5B is more than 22 tons. So so it is the only choice for us to launch the modules into the outer space. And this rocket, as you mentioned, is Long March 2F. Long March 2F. You see, that's the most distinctive feature of it. Look, it has emergency escape system. It is because
save the people's life.
Usually, you know that this rocket, we call this the only human-rated launch vehicle for China. The human-rated launch vehicle, the difference is that it is safe enough for humans to take this rocket.
So usually, where can the human stay?
Just inside the payload fairing. Just inside
the re-entry module. That's where the re-entry module stays, right?
Just inside this payload fairing, we have the Shenzhou spaceship. Look, you see that the rocket is a 2.5-stage rocket with the first stage and the second stage. The diameter is 3.35 meters, and you can see the 4 boosters. The 4 booster, the diameter is 2.24 meters, just like the Long March 1 rocket.
That's small.
So the ignition sequence is that first we ignite all the engines. There are 4 engines on the core stage, and also we have 1 engine on each of the boosters. So they will ignite simultaneously. And after about 2 minutes, we will just before that we will jettisoning the emergency escape tower, because it is already high enough, and we do not need that.
We do not need that.
Yes. And then we will separate the 4 boosters at about 2 minutes, and then we will separate the first stage. Then the working of the second stage. During the operation of the second stage, we will jettison the payload ferry, because it is already high enough. The density of the air is already low enough, so the wind will not influence or damage our Shenzhou spaceship. So, and then the sequence is shutdown of the main engine of the second stage. You see that there is one big engine in the second stage, and also there are 4 smaller engines called vernier engines. The vernier engines of the second stage is to control the attitude of the rocket, but also have another functions. You see that during the working of the second stage, usually we will first shut down the main engine, and then use the 4 vernier engines to adjust its orbit very, very precisely. And then it can enter the orbit very, very precisely. Then the final step will be the separation between the second stage and the Shenzhou spaceship.
That's quite detailed instruction.
Yeah, usually we will announce the success of this launch when the solar panels, like this one, unfolded for the Shenzhou spaceship. So that is the mark of the successful launch, and the commander of the launch site will announce that.
Oh wow! So speaking of the manned spacecraft, I can't wait to see this our highlight of today's exhibition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this major actor of today's live coverage.
Yeah, this is the Shenzhou-13 manned re-entry module.
Yeah.
Right? This is a real module.
The real one.
The real one, and for the first time, it's shown to the public today. Oh my goodness! Look, I can see that it's like
a bell.
Like a bell. Like why is it designed like this?
Well, it depends on several factors. So you see, although we can see that it's very, very big, but when you sit inside, it's really narrow. It's very narrow. You see that the bigger it is, the tougher it is when entering the atmosphere. So usually, if possible, we hope that the diameter is not so big. The diameter of this re-entry capsule is about 2.5 meters. So that is the reason we adopt this shape. And you know that 2.5 meters is relatively small for 3 crew members. So that's the reason we use this bell shape. And it will be bigger for the astronaut. And you can see that the shape of this is like a bell. The total mass of this re-entry capsule or the re-entry module is about 3 tons.
3 tons?
Yeah. On top is the hatch. So you know that the Shenzhou spaceship is composed of the 3 modules. Just on top of this re-entry capsule is the orbital module. And just at the bottom, it is connected to the propulsion module. So the Shenzhou spaceship adopted a 3-module design.
So this one sits in the middle of the
in the middle, exactly. So just before the launch, the astronaut will go into the Shenzhou spaceship from the side hatch of the orbital module, and then go down into this re-entry capsule from this hatch.
Yeah. And this is where they sit, like this.
Yeah. So the commander will sit in the middle, and the other 2 astronauts sit on the left and right. So it is very interesting, the sequence for them, that the commander will be the last one go inside.
Shall we just walk around it?
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see it. What are those? Like, this one looks really complicated. They have a lot of complicated design.
Yeah. You see that for this re-entry capsule, we have connections to the other important part of the Shenzhou ships. This part is a connection between the re-entry capsule and the propulsion module. So just before the separation, you know that during the re-entry, the Shenzhou space, the re-entry capsule will separate it from the propulsion module, and also there is a plug-in will be separated. And also you see that from this one, when the Shenzhou re-entry capsule is landed on the Earth, there will be beacons, light beacons, to show the position of this re-entry capsule, and the rescue teams can find them as soon as possible. And also you see that just before landing, we can not see the other part because there is a main heating shield at the bottom of this module. Just when the main parachute is deployed, the heating shield will be jettisoned.
So if we look at the code of this re-entry module, what are the technologies behind? I can see the shape of
honeycomb. It is a honeycomb structure. You see that this is the code is for the thermal control. It belongs to the thermal control system. You see that during the re-entry of the capsule, the speed is very high. It's more than 7.8 kilometers per second.
That makes the temperature even higher.
It's more than 1,000 degrees Celsius. So that is a very, very high temperature. So to keep the damage of the spaceship, and also to ensure the safety of the astronaut, we must keep the temperature inside about 20 to 22 degrees Celsius. So how to achieve this? We use these ablative materials. You see that this material, when during the re-entry, that the air will have a very intensive friction with the surface of the Shenzhou spaceship, and because of this friction, as we have already discussed, it will have a very high temperature. With this temperature, the ablative material will be evaporized, and the vapor will draw the heat out of the body of the Shenzhou spaceship. That's the principle and methodology for the thermal protection. And you can see that, yes,
some part of it has been blackened. That's maybe this side is
upwind.
Is upwind.
Yeah, exactly. You see that. So you can see that the coat, as you mentioned, is in different color. That because this side is the upwind direction, and that side do not have very serious burning. So this is the reason that in our professional field we call the method of the re-entry of our Shenzhou ship semi-ballistic re-entry, which means that during the re-entry, that we have lift forces. How to achieve this? You see that this is you can see that this re-entry capsule is a cylindrical body. But the interesting thing is that you see that the center of its mass, or the centroid of this capsule, is not on the cylindrical axis. So this is the reason why when we go inside the atmosphere, the cylindrical axis is not on its velocity direction. So we have an angle because.
Yes. It's usually re-entry.
Yeah, exactly. So this angle is also attack angle. With this angle, we can have the lift forces, the aerodynamic lift forces, and you can see these nozzles. These are the nozzles of the small rocket engines. With these rocket engines, we can change what we call the rolling direction, the roll direction. And with the changing of the roll direction, we can change the direction of the lift forces. And with the change of the lift forces, we can adjust the trajectory of this module. So that is the reason why we can have a very precise landing, because we can change the direction and change the trajectory.
And it's all controlled by the landing crew, right?
No, it's completely controlled by the vehicle itself. And the ground crew, and the crew, you may notice that, and the ground crew can only monitor the whole position.
And is this the little window that they can look outside?
Yes. Just that's.
But you see, the quality is really good. I did see some cracks on the surface, but I didn't see any crack on this window.
Yes. So you see, the window is also necessary for us because that the astronaut must evaluate the situation they met either in orbit or on the ground, because this is also very important. That it has all kinds of measurement instruments, but the measurement usually the instrument can have malfunctions. In this case, usually they can go look outside the window to see where they are and what's their direction. So this is also very important for the astronauts. So that is the reason. Of course, you see that without the windows, it will be easier for the designers, but not very safety for the astronauts. So that is it. And also there are multiple layers in this window.
Multiple layers.
Yeah, that's the difference of
just
pressure.
In case.
That's the pressure difference between the inside and outside of the module in the vacuum condition is 1 atmosphere. So it is a great difference. So we must have multiple layers to protect not only the forces of the different atmosphere and also the high temperature. So this is also a very important technology for us.
Sure, that's huge pressure from inside. And we can see that this is the Shenzhou-13 re-entry module for those who just joined us in the CGTN live stream.
Yes. Jiaxin, look, this is a chamber for the main parachute.
This this one is for the parachute.
Yeah. So we stored this parachute inside this chamber, and just we deploy our Shenzhou our main parachute at the altitude about 10 kilometers high.
Okay.
Yeah.
We start to open the parachute at
yes,
this height.
Yeah.
Right.
You know that because of the aerodynamic drag, the speed or the velocity of the Shenzhou re-entry capsule can lower down to the subsonic velocity. Usually just before the deployment of the main parachute, the speed of the vehicle is about 200 meters per second. So it is already low enough to deploy the parachute.
Yeah, that's kind of a safe speed.
But notice that besides this main parachute, we also have a backup parachute.
Yeah, we can talk about our parachute later.
Yeah.
Because I can already see some large parachute in front of me. Like this part is seriously blackened.
Yeah, exactly. So this right direction of the upwind direction. So it is most seriously heated. You can see the ablating material. Some of them have already been vaporized and have, as I mentioned, brought the heat from the vehicle to the atmosphere.
And this one's also a hatch, right?
Yeah. As I mentioned, this is a backup parachute.
For backup parachute hatch. Okay, and that one is for the people to go.
Yeah, that's the hatch for the astronaut to go inside and out.
Okay, sure.
And there is also another feature of this one. You know that this Shenzhou-13 re-entry capsule has the longest duration in outer space among all our Shenzhou spaceships. You know that the Shenzhou-13 crew stayed in orbit for about 183 days. And the Shenzhou,
like half a year.
That's half a year, and more than half a year. And then this Shenzhou-13 re-entry capsule stayed in outer space for more than half a year. This is a very challenging task. You see that in outer space, it is very hazardous, not only for human, but also very hazardous for the electrical devices. So stay in outer space for more than half a year, we also meet the challenge to deal with this kind of problem maybe caused by the radiation in outer space, to ensure the instruments, the electronics inside this capsule is also properly. So just before return to the Earth, we must conduct a very strict test, and also to ensure that each part of this capsule can still work. So that is also a very important step to ensure the safety of our astronauts.
So the longer they stay in space, the more like energy and efforts we need to put in to protect it. Yeah. Okay. So speaking of the parachute, just in front of us, we can see this large Shenzhou-13 parachute.
This is the main chute, the main parachute of our Shenzhou-13 re-entry capsule. You know that's the total area. The total area of this main parachute is about 1,200 square meters.
1,200 square meters. So if you stretch it on a plate, like a football field, it's like
less than football field, but about the size of a basketball field.
Oh wow! That's huge enough.
Really huge.
But if you squeeze it, it can be smaller enough to be
just put inside, compacted into this small chamber.
Yes, it's only like a luggage size.
Yes. So the feature of this main parachute is that it can reduce the speed of this 3-ton re-entry capsule to about 7 meters per second.
Oh wow!
And also, but still, this speed is not safe enough for the astronaut. So just at the bottom of this re-entry capsule, we have 4 small rocket motors, solid rocket motors, just about 1 meter before landing. I mean that when the distance of the bottom and the ground is about 1 meter, we will have a device called the gamma ray altimeter to measure the distance. When the distance is less than 1 meter, we will trigger the 4 rocket boosters, and the speed will reduce to about 1 meter per second. That will be very soft and very safe for astronauts to touch down.
Oh, sure. As I can remember, because during Shenzhou-12's mission, I've been to this technological institute to report the parachute. And the material is really special to make sure that it can resist high temperature. At the same time, it's safe enough. It stretches.
Yeah.
It's
very strong.
Very strong. It's really strong, and it's light.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So as you mentioned, it's very correct, and it is very interesting that when Premier Zhu Rongji visited the China Academy of Space Technology, our crew told him that this material is very strong, and so Premier Zhu Rongji tried to told this but cannot achieve this.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Yeah. And also the strip here.
Yeah. So you see that it's not a complete one. It has this ceilings. So you see so this to have a proper aerodynamic forces to be stable.
To be stable.
Yeah.
Sure. And I've also heard that the parachutes have 3 kinds of them.
Yeah.
Like the first one is like a guidance parachute.
Yeah. Leading
chute, and that one is small, but it's only like a signal.
Yes. So what you mentioned, the leading parachute is to just when we open the chamber, just drag the other 2 parachutes outside the chamber. So this is the function of this one. And the second one is called de-acceleration parachute. So it can continuously reduce the speed of the vehicle to a safe level. You see that if the velocity is too high, it will damage this main parachute. So the de-acceleration parachute is necessary. So as you mentioned, you are correct, we have 3 parachutes.
Yeah, sure. So when the speed is down enough, it's slow enough, we can open the large one to protect it.
So the deployment of the main parachute is at about the altitude of about 10 kilometers. So we designed this altitude. The speed already is reduced to a reasonable level and safe for the deployment of the main chute.
Yeah. And also its color, the red and the white, especially the red, it's remarkable enough for people to notice them.
Yeah, because you know that we recover our Shenzhou re-entry capsule in Sizivang banner or in our Jiaxin satellite launch center. So Dongfeng landing field. So this color is very helpful for the rescue team to find it.
Sure. Yeah. This is the first thing we can see from the Earth in the center of the Gobi Desert.
Yeah, exactly.
Sure. Okay, let's move along.
Let's go.
Wow. I've seen a lot of them. Oh, and this is the spacesuit, right?
Actually speaking, this is the IVA spacesuit.
IVA spacesuit.
Or intravehicular spacesuit. So this spacesuit is worn by every astronaut when during the launch and during the re-entry. The major role of this spacesuit to ensure when the cabin is depressurized due to any malfunction, it can protect the life of the astronaut. You know that we live in the atmosphere with the pressure, and if we enter the vacuum condition, because you know that the boiling point of any liquid will be lower down with the decreasing of the air pressure. Yeah. So if we go into a vacuum condition, the blood in our body will will boil. So we will lose our life in a very painful condition. So that is the reason we cannot fit in the vacuum condition. So you know that's the cabin is the first protection to the astronauts, but that's not safe enough. So we need this second one. So this is IVA spacesuit. We can protect the life of our astronauts. You know that they do have disasters before. During the early era of the space development, the former Soviet, because at that moment their spaceship is still not big enough. So to have multiple cosmonauts inside, they let them to take off this IVA spacesuit, only wear ordinary dresses in that. That's really dangerous. And in 1971, during the Soyuz 11 mission, because the malfunction of a valve during re-entry, the 3 astronauts lost their lives during the re-entry.
Just because of the malfunction of the suit.
So just after this disaster, so all the cosmonauts wear this IVA spacesuit, no exception. So they do have disasters before in other countries. So that is the reason at current stage all space-capable nations who can have capability of the crew transportation just during the launch and during the re-entry. They just wear this IVA spacesuit.
Sure. And is this the one that's been worn on Yang Liwei or on Shenzhou-13 crew like Wang Yaping?
Well, it has a similar design, but I cannot be sure. Usually they will have the name at this belt, so we cannot see. We cannot be sure.
Own.
Yeah.
Sure, and usually the clothes will be, the suit will be designed according to their own body shape.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So each one for a certain person.
Sure.
Yeah.
And also this one is an EVA suit, right?
Exactly. So this is, actually speaking, this first generation EVA spacesuit. It was worn by Mr. Jiaxin during the Shenzhou-13 mission in 2008. The first generation.
We all remember his voice. 我已出舱感觉良好.
I'm feeling very good.
Yeah, very good.
But that's really a very tough mission during the Shenzhou-13 mission. You know that you can see that this dress is very big. The total mass is more than 100 kilograms.
Wow.
So very heavy. And you know that, as I mentioned, we have our airlock on our Tiangong space station. But you know that during the Shenzhou-13 mission, we want to test our EVA technology, but we don't have a dedicated airlock. So we use the orbital module. As I mentioned, the orbital module is at the top of the re-entry capsule.
Yeah.
We use the orbital module act as the airlock. But the problem is the inner volume of the orbital module is very small.
Yeah.
You know that Mr. Jiaxin and Mr. Liu Boming conducted the first spacewalk of China.
Only one of them can wear this EVA
No,
suit?
two of them. So Mr. Jiaxin wears this Feitian spacesuit, the first generation Feitian spacesuit, and Mr. Liu Boming wears another all-land spacesuit we imported from Russia.
Sure.
So the two persons were inside this Shenzhou-13 orbital module, but the two persons and the two EVA spacesuit occupied almost all the volume of this module. And Mr. Liu Boming just gave a report several years before. He mentioned that they can only test this spacesuit and operate just along the very small narrow space along this spacesuit. So you can see how tough it is. And another problem is that you know that the orbital module of the Shenzhou-13 is not designed for the act as an airlock. So when the module is depressurized, it is not a complete vacuum condition. So the two astronauts met some difficulty when they try to open the hatch because there's still some small amount of air inside. So they met this difficulty. And also because a malfunction of the sensor, it has a fire alert.
Yeah, sure. I've heard of that.
You heard of that.
Yeah.
So it is although you know that we successfully conducted our first EVA in 2008, but really tough. And also that EVA we only conducted for about 19.5 minutes. So that is not long enough for our future works. So that is the reason why we conducted the several EVA during Shenzhou-12 and the Shenzhou-13 mission to test our second generation EVA spacesuits.
Yeah, because until very recent, our tachonauts can already wear in this EVA suit and conduct this extravehicular activities for hours, for like 6 hours.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The designed time span for one EVA is about 8 hours.
8 hours.
Yeah.
That's the maximum.
And also, the design is different. You know that you can see that there are two lights here, but the lights of the second generation is much stronger than this one. And also, the instruments on the chest of the astronaut and also on the rear part is also
a little backpack.
Yes, the bag. Usually, the bag we call this portable life support system. Exactly. So we have the thermal control, the pressure resistance, the oxygen supply, the absorbing of carbon dioxide and the other hazardous gases, and also the humidity control, all in one body.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that is the reason we call this EVA spacesuit the most complicated and the most expensive suit of human being.
How expensive is it?
I believe it is more than 10 million yuan, I believe.
10 million yuan.
But for different countries, it's different.
Okay. That's over 1.5 million US dollars.
Yes, actually speaking, it's much more expensive than that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it is. But now it's all developed by China itself.
And also, it is very interesting. You can see the mark. The words are in the mirror direction.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Usually that's because that the astronauts must see these marks by themselves, but they cannot see it directly. They can use that on this mirror.
Oh.
With this mirror, they will see the right
mirror.
Yeah. So they will see in the right direction.
Because they can't see it from by themselves.
So they need to adjust the valve and to operate the buttons to adjust the temperature and other parameters inside this spacesuit.
Got it. That's interesting. A lot of.
And you can see this logo is China Manned Space Engineering.
Yeah. Okay. And they have this life-saving string or something that can connect them to the module, right?
Yeah, you can see this safe belt. So usually we conduct EVA, we call it as a tethered EVA. Just with this safe belt connected or locked on the surface of the handrails of the surface of the space station.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Let's move on. After our manned space program, maybe we can move along to the lunar exploration, right?
Okay.
And now we have our Beidou navigation system.
Yeah. So it is a global navigation satellite system.
Yeah, sure. Now we came to the moon exploration area with some other modules of the moon probe, right?
Okay. You can see this is a module, a model of our Chang'e 5 mission. You know that our lunar exploration can be the long-term strategy is have three simple Chinese words called 探登驻. 探 means exploration. Now we are in this phase. And 登 exploration. And 登means human missions to the moon.
登 like 登山的
Yeah, exactly. And 驻 means permanent residence of human being on the moon. 探登驻. Yeah, exactly. So this is a long-term strategy. And for the first stage, we also have 3 steps called 绕落回.
绕落回.
绕 means orbiting the moon.
Yeah.
落 means landing on the moon. And 回 means sample return. And what we see here is sample return mission. So you can see this one.
That's how we get the soil.
Yeah, exactly. Actually speaking, the Chang'e 5 mission is the most complex mission of China, because that the Chang'e 5 probe is composed of 4 modules. What we see here is the lander and the ascender. Yeah, exactly. The lander and the ascender. And here, look. Here, this is the orbiter. This is the orbiter, and also inside is a re-entry capsule, re-entry module. So the whole Chang'e 5 probe is composed of these 4 parts. And I always tell to the media that our Chang'e 5 sample return mission can be called a manned small Apollo mission.
Oh, so it laid the foundation for our manned.
It just have a very similar mission profile like the manned missions, Apollo mission to the moon.
Oh.
So you can.
It's much smaller, right?
Yes. The total mass of this Chang'e 5 probe is more than 8 tons, but the crewed Apollo spaceship is more than 45 tons. So it is a smaller one.
Yeah,
but you know that we adopted the technology we called the Lunar Orbit Rendezvous. It is because that it is quite different from the mission of the former Soviet Union. Although the former Soviet Union also have the sample return missions, but that the total mass of the lunar soils we brought out to the Earth is more than 1.7 kilograms. It is 5 times heavier than the total of all the samples brought back by the 3 missions of the former Soviet Union. Why we can achieve that? Because you know that we choose the lunar orbit rendezvous. You see that the mission profile is that the Long March 5 rocket.
This is Long March 3B.
No, this is Long March 3B. It is used for the launch of the Chang'e 3 and the Chang'e 4.
Oh,
but for this,
Chang'e 5.
yeah, but for this Chang'e 5 mission, we use the Long March 5. And the Long March 5,
the fat one.
yeah, the Long March 5 will brought all these 4 modules to the translunar orbit. And then when it approaching the moon, it uses the engines on this orbital module to slow it down from the translunar orbit to the circumlunar orbit. So this is the first step. And then these 2 parts will separate from these 2 parts. So we call this the combination of the orbiter and the returner. And this is a combination of the lander and the ascender. And as you mentioned, the lander will land it on the moon, actually speaking, in the ocean of storms. It is near the Mount Ramker region, which is very, very young in Moon's history. And then it will take in the soils by drilling and also by the on the surface, and then put the samples inside a container on top of this ascender. And then the ascender will lift off. Return from the lunar surface to the lunar orbit, and then it will rendezvous with this combination of orbiter and returner. Then
so these 2 parts will come together.
Come together and dock together, and then you see that we will transfer the container of the soil from this ascender to the returner. Then separate it. Then use the engines to turn from the circumlunar orbit to the translunar orbit from the trans-Earth, from the moon to the Earth,
and then go back.
So you can see how complex the whole procedure is.
So are we leaving these 2 sides?
Yes.
These
so
2 parts.
the lander is still on the moon's surface.
Oh, it's still there.
Still there. So you can take photos. and the orbiter, because you know that ascender is orbiting the moon, and because of disturbance, finally it will crash on because it's already finished its task. So it will crash on the moon or be fly to maybe anywhere.
Like ascender will be.
It's already abandoned.
Yeah, it's abandoned. Okay.
So that's the whole procedure of our Chang'e 5 separated mission. And the Chang'e 6, according to the announcement of the China National Space Agency, it has a similar configuration of the Chang'e 5. Usually act as the backup of the Chang'e 5, but in the future it will have a different role to land on the far side of the moon and taking samples.
Okay. And when do we expect the China to our nation to send humans to moon?
Well, you see that the leaders of China Aerospace has expressed their wish to have human missions to the moon, and you see that the passenger of our Shenzhou-13 the cabin, Miss Wang Yaping, of my friend, has also expressed her wish to walk on the moon. So you see that we were already conducting the preparation work, such as huge rocket engines, such as 10-meter diameter, the long chamber of the rockets, and such as high performance upper stage rocket engines. We are preparing these necessary technologies, but after the approval of the government, we are still waiting for the approval of the central government. So technically speaking, we can land on the moon maybe in the year 2030 also.
2030.
So that's also some of the experts has expressed their wish to have this mission.
That's not really far.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2030. We can expect that.
And I hope my friend Yaping can eat mooncake on the moon.
Oh, I also hope so. That would be interesting to eat mooncake on the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. If Wang Yaping is watching this live stream, we really look forward to your exploration to the moon, to the lunar.
Yeah.
Okay, so they even have some electrical instructions.
Yeah. So this is introduction, multimedia about introduction of our lunar exploration program. So we have, that as we mentioned, we've already completed the 3 steps of 绕落回.
Yeah.
Now we have 3 another steps called the 看见用.
看
means surveying. surveying the site, the right site for the station. And Jian means construction of the research station, and Yu means utilization and application of the station. So in the future, we will also have multiple landers and rovers maybe on the south pole of the moon. You know that in the south pole we have the permanent shadow areas. Inside these areas, we can find the water ice, so we can utilize the water.
Water ice.
Yeah. And also in other regions near the permanent shadow area, there are permanent sunshine areas. Because we have the sunshine, we can very easily get the energy supply, and also it's easy to handle the thermal control problems. Because you know that at the night of the moon, it is very long, about 14 days, and also extremely cold, about 200 degrees Celsius below zero.
200 Celsius below.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. Very cold. So it's very hard. You know that on this rover and also on this lander.
That's 10 times colder than Russia.
Yeah. Also more colder than the South Pole. North Pole.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you can afford that. And you see that we have a radioisotope heater device on this rover and also on this lander to overcome the ultra extreme cold at the night. But if we can land on a permanent sunshine area, this problem will not be very serious. So that's the reason why we choose a station near the South Pole.
And it has a very interesting name called Yu Tu, which means
Jade Rabbit.
Jade Rabbit.
Yeah. So it is a pet of the Chang'e, our moon goddess.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
It's all date back to China's ancient story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so now we've already arrived at this Mars exploration mission, right? Yeah. We've already got to the Mars.
Yeah.
Like our Tianwen 1号, Tianwen 1 has already landed on Mars, right?
Yes.
I remember it's on maybe June 2020 or 2021.
Exactly. It was launched in 2020 and landed on the moon just last year.
Oh.
Sorry, on Mars.
On Mars, sure. Wow, this is. So maybe they have some module here.
Yeah. Look, let's look. We go here. So the most remarkable feature of our Mars mission is that we combined the 3 missions together: an orbiter, a lander, and a rover. So you can see this is a model of the whole probe. You can see this on the bottom is the orbiter, and this is a re-entry module. This is a re-entry module. Inside this module is the rover.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So you can see this platform is on the base of this re-entry module. You see that you know that landing on Mars is the most tough part of this mission. Because why? You see that landing on Mars is much more difficult than landing on the Earth and landing on the moon. This is because you know that the Mars has an atmosphere. So when entering the atmosphere of Mars, the aerodynamic heating is remarkable. You must consider about that. So that's the reason. Look, on the bottom of the re-entry capsule, we have a heating shield. So we must have a heating shield to protect the whole rover. So this is first one. But you know that although it has an atmosphere, but the atmosphere is not thick enough. So you cannot safely landing on the Martian surface only with a parachute. So we can not only have a heating shield, but we also need a parachute. And the difference with that parachute is that it is a supersonic parachute.
Supersonic?
Yeah, so working in a supersonic condition is really different from a subsonic position. The second one. And third, still as we mentioned, the air density of the Mars is only about less than 1% of the density of the Earth.
Sure.
Yeah, only 1%. So we not only need the parachute. Finally, we need the retro rocket. We need a rocket to continuously slow down the speed of the vehicle. And also we need the landing legs. So we use the landing legs. So you can see we combine all these measures to slow down in space, to safely touchdown on the Martian surface. And also the interval between each of the measure is also very, very fatal, very, very critical. So that is the reason why the landing on the Martian surface is so complex. And also the meaning of our Tianwen-1 mission is that we try to become the second country in the world that can safely land a vehicle on the Martian surface and conduct scientific research.
Wow.
Just before that, the former Soviet Union and Europe all failed. Only the U.S. just before us, only the U.S. can land on the Martian surface and conduct scientific research. And now you can see this model of the Zhurong rover. Our Zhurong is our god of fire. Our god of fire. And the Zhurong rover, look, it looks like the butterfly.
Yeah, it's like a butterfly.
Yeah. Now it is the heaviest, the biggest rover on the Martian surface, which depends on the solar power. You know that the heaviest rover on the Martian surface is the Perseverance and Curiosity rover from US. But these rovers are based on nuclear energy. So other rovers, including our rover, is based on solar energy. But our one,
that's more
our rover,
environmental friendly.
Yeah. So this one is the biggest one, about 240 kilograms. So it's still working on the Martian surface. But now at this moment it is hibernating because it is already today is still in winter of Mars. So it's really cold and position.
Cold? How cold?
Well, it's maybe it's about 100 degrees below Celsius.
Oh, that's
still
much better than the moon.
Much better than the moon, but still colder than the South Pole. It is in hibernating. So when the summer comes, or just the spring comes to the Mars, so it will wake up and continues to work. But still, at this moment, the orbiter is still working, so taking photos of the Martian surface.
So usually, how long does it take for a human to travel to the Mars?
Usually, the whole trip from Earth to the Mars and then go back, we need more than half a year.
More than half a year.
Because you know that usually the launch window happens every 26 months. So if we miss one window, we must wait for another 26 months.
Sure.
So that is the reason why we launched our Tianwen-1 in 2020. But other countries can only launch their Mars probe maybe this year. Just more than 2 years. And the problem is that when you go there and conduct some research, you cannot go back at once. You must wait another trunk call to return from the Mars to the Earth. So the whole journey will be more than 500 days. And until now, the human being cannot conduct this mission because you know that even one journey to the Mars, the total cost will be greater than the cost on the International Space Station. Yeah, exactly.
Space Station.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. So I guess that's it for our today's exploration in China's space memorabilia. It's quite remarkable after so detailed instruction from our Dr. Yang. I believe I'm very impressive of our nation's space station program, and in recent years more and more people are getting more interested in China's space achievements, as I believe so. How did you feel about this?
Well, it's very happy, very great pleasure for me to talk with Jiaxin and share our information with the audience. And also, I hope that you know that as an employee of China Aerospace, I always think it is my responsibility to introduce the details of and the interesting part of the space technology to the public. And we hope that the public and the people can support the space field. And it is this very important for the sustainability of our space industry.
Yeah, I hope all our viewers have a good time during our live stream, and hope our tour helps you a bit in knowing maybe get a hint of China's space achievements during over the past 1.5 hours. Thank you so much for watching, and if you're interested, please follow us on all our social media platforms of CGTN. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good day.
Goodbye.
Bye bye.